What's going on, guys? In this short video I'm going to show you how to culture some springtails.
G'day, my name's Luke and I'm an avid reptile and amphibian keeper. On this channel you'll see DIY tutorials, care videos, herping clips and plenty of other animal related content. Please make sure to subscribe and check out what my animals and I are up to.
So springtails are these fantastic little insects that you add into terrariums to help basically fight off mold and other sorts of nasties and decaying matter and things that are inside your enclosures. So they are a super beneficial little critter to actually have inside your terrariums. And the best thing to do is to essentially start up a culture and just keep kind of culturing them yourselves to seed out your terrariums, because they do die off eventually if you're not seeding or feeding them inside of a terrarium. So best thing to do is to kind of actually try to culture some yourself. So springtails sometimes come up for sale online. They are a little bit harder to come by in Australia than probably overseas. So, you know, it is one of those things that I'm actually kind of considering making up some more colonies so I can essentially ship some of these around Australia and give them out to other hobbyists. So stay tuned for that. I'll let you guys know when I'm ready to do that, because I have had a few people asking me about that in the past. But it's super simple to set up a colony, so even when you do find a starter culture from wherever, there's only going to be a few things that you actually need to keep these guys happy and healthy. Number one is you're going to need some sort of container to put them in, so I just use these little takeaway containers. You can usually get them down at the shops. Like I just picked up these from Woolies. I've got 25 containers and they were $10 for 25 containers. It's super cheap. You're obviously going to need some sort of substrate for these guys to actually be in. So I use horticultural charcoal. I just get this stuff from Bunnings. I picked it up the other day when I was up there shopping for a few things from a rough scale enclosure. So charcoal, that's your medium per se. You're also going to need a little bit of moisture inside of these. I was going to call them an enclosure, but they're essentially just a little container. I use dechlorinated tap water, same stuff that I use for my frogs. But you could also use demineralized water, or RODI water would even be better. But basically you just don't want anything that's containing too many heavy metals or chlorines or anything like that. So I find that dechlorinated tap water works absolutely perfectly fine for me, but I've also got an RODI system here too. Now, occasionally you actually want to give them some food. So what I do is I essentially give them an instant dried yeast. Nothing too fancy. Again, probably costs you a couple of bucks from, you know, Coles or Woolies or wherever you're going to go to at the supermarket. So, best way to actually... Got common eastern froglets going off here, sorry guys. So yeah, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to split up these cultures and start making up some more containers, because I really want to boost my numbers of these, so then I can, you know, hopefully supply the Australian public with, you know, a few springtails here and there, which would be good to kind of get them out there. So for today, I'm going to try to set a few of these up. So all we really want to do is we want to fill up some of these containers with this charcoal. You don't want them too full. I'd probably say maybe 2/3 full of charcoal. Not sure how far this bag is going to get me, but we'll take a stab at 6 and we'll go from there. So it looks like we might be able to make a fair few of these up for today. I might just do 8. I think I'll be happy with 8, and then I've got kind of 12 decent sized cultures that I can harvest from. Absolutely worst case, it's not going to cost me much more to make any of these up. I've got containers. Charcoal is like $8-9 a bag, and I've got a big jar of yeast, so most of my supplies are already here. So, next step, get some water into these. So you don't want to go too overboard on the water, but you just want to be able to kind of take the dust out of the charcoal. It's probably not a bad idea to kind of maybe do about 1 centimetre or 1.5 centimetres of water in the bottom, as long as the charcoal is about double that sort of depth. Keep in mind some of this will evaporate over time, so it's not something you're going to have to replace, you know, consistently. The next step you actually want to do is actually get the springtails into the containers. So I find that the easiest way to do it is to take your starter culture or your main culture and actually fill this up with a bit of water and then pour them out into these actual little tubs. So the reason that this is so easy is springtails float, which is really convenient. They're actually hydrophobic. So I don't know if you can see that there. But you got a whole bunch of springtails just floating on the top of the water surface. So once you've actually gone through and done that, super simple, tiny pinch of yeast. You got to remember there's not too many springtails in each of these enclosures just yet. So just a tiny sprinkle of yeast, and that'll just give them something to feed off, and hopefully their numbers will start reproducing really soon for you. So the main thing here is make sure to obviously use some of these guys and seed your terrariums with them. You don't want it to overpopulate the little culture boxes here, but at the same time, make sure to feed them. Doesn't have to be all that often, but maybe once or twice a week, just make sure to put some of this yeast in there. They might not, you know, eat it all straight away, so just kind of judge it by eye as well. So if there is a whole bunch of yeast still in there, don't feed them. Just kind of go off with what their populations are doing and how they're growing. But these guys are super simple to use. It's, you know, not hard work by any means. You can just leave them at room temperature. But yeah, we're done for one day, and then that's just started up another 8 cultures. So yeah, hopefully there'll be loads of springtails to share around soon. So if you do have some sort of interest in it, maybe just shoot me a message so we can start chatting about it. I'm going to work out some postage details in the near future. I think when I do go to start selling them, you're not going to be buying like a big culture like this. You'll essentially maybe be buying like a small portion of it. I'm not going to ship them in charcoal either. I've read up that there's, you know, good reports that they tend to die off if they are shipped in charcoal. So some people tend to do them in things like moist coir peat, for example, which you can then transfer into your little cultures yourself. So anyway, I'm going to hash that all out. But hopefully this is a new little venture for me and a little side hobby. But I find these guys really useful. These things keep my enclosures nice and clean and breaking down nasties. So we'll see how it goes from there. So when you go to seed your terrariums, it's the exact same as seeding one of the little cultures. Got all your nice little bugs crawl around in there. And as I said earlier, they're hydrophobic, so they don't like, well, they float on water. So just add a little extra dechlorinated water to the culture. Then we can go from there and add them into the terrarium. So for example, I'm just going to seed the Boyd's enclosure now. Should be able to see a whole bunch of them there floating around. So we can just float them straight into there. Anyway guys, thanks heaps for tuning into this short little video on springtails and how to culture them and look after them. And I'll catch you on the next video.